Hi, everybody. Okay, now we can start. Sorry. 813. I tried to come on. I had some glitches. So I hope you're getting this on July 20th, 2025. It has been a very, very wild day. Very wild day. Lots of information coming in. And, I don't lie. I really don't lie about it. It is just absolutely when I tell you everything, your jaw drops if you've been following this case because every day is something new. It's breaking news. Today is a double breaking news, maybe triple breaking news. Really, probably triple breaking news. Um, Matter of fact, it is. It is. Jeez. It's just so much information, and it does take a couple days for us to wrap our heads around it. But I try to do my best at night to tell you what is going on at the border in El Paso, in Richard's case, with the narco politicians, with the Trump administration, including Marco Rubio, who is absolutely on this case because it's international. And if you have not been following, uh, this is about our son, the Fort Bliss whistleblower soldier who went missing July 2020, and we knew, and it has been confirmed by the Department of Defense that he was murdered in the line of duty. And um, all the evidence that we have is what brought that about. All the evidence without remains. So we have been pursuing Richard's remains, of course, the truth, his remains, and also accountability for those that have done this to him, which his chain of command has been implicated in official affidavits. Um, well, no, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say. Um, it's just been a wild day. And reports. Um, and so let me try to explain the best I can. And please help us out as much. If you have information, please keep on helping us so that we report this properly. But this is all about the criminal trafficking that's going on at the border and also election interference. This was election interference. It was an attack on Trump's policies for his during his first administration, election interference so that he would not be elected again, and also the protection of the $1 billion criminal trafficking industry or network that was going on at the southern border. And I would also say the millions and billions of dollars that are made in these government contracts and also through fraudulent activities, um, declaring themselves, humanitarian efforts, um, and yet they are not. They're not, and getting funding through U.S. aid. That's very important because now with um, the rotting body dumping ground that has been recently exposed in Mexico, you can see that uh, the fraud to collect on U.S. aid um, is just out there for everyone to see, and accountability. There's a there's so much indication of of activity going on behind the scenes. So let's see if I'm on. Let's see if everything's going. It's 1 a.m. Just because it's just been such a very, very busy day, and I hope everyone's going to have a great weekend. Um, because this is really good news. These early morning shows that I do, because of course we have to live, right? We've been doing this for 5 years, day in and day out, and life doesn't stop. And I really need to do some day live streams. Um, but the evenings are when, instead of sleeping, we do this. There's no time to sleep. Um, we do this. And so it has been 1,813 days since Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room in uniform, um, and his life was taken from him. Okay, because he was a whistleblower. Because he was a whistleblower, and the cartel had infiltrated into his chain of command. It had infiltrated onto Fort Bliss. This is a national security breach. Um, this is a huge, huge issue, a national security issue. And it gets even worse than that because the cartel had infiltrated into the judicial and law enforcement system, political system there in El Paso. And of course, there's a pipeline that goes from Mexico. Of course, Chihuahua is the state of Mexico that's right over the border that borders with Texas. And of course, El Paso is a city that is a Siamese sister city of Juarez, Mexico, one of the most dangerous cities in the world. Um, and uh, you just divided by the fence, right? You can say the Rio Grande, but um, you just, there's bridges everywhere. You just walk right over. Once upon a time, that was just one big city. Um, and Juarez is huge. It has twice the population of El Paso. El Paso is a beautiful ancient city. I love the city. I know the city. I went to school there. I was born at White Sands Missile Range, on the range, one of the very few babies born on the range. So I know the area. And There's a pipeline going. It's very, very easy to see from Chihuahua, Mexico, through Juarez, up through El Paso and Fort Bliss, up through White Sands Missile Range, which is in New Mexico. That goes shares air air security border air restriction border with Zorro Ranch, which was owned by Jeffrey Epstein. And that's all these reports of thousands of women over the years, thousands of young women, young girls missing, especially in Chihuahua, Mexico. And you know, you don't have to know how to add too well to put that together, right? To put that together and to know that hundreds of thousands of children being trafficked through Fort Bliss. Um, they built a camp, 10,000 beds, 10,000 at a time. Um, Thousands, hundreds of thousands, and I'm not joking with that. I'm not over exaggerating. It's hundreds of thousands of children that were trafficked through Fort Bliss. Through Fort Bliss, they call it the death camp. Um, White Sands Missile Range, which is part of Fort Bliss, is the largest landmass military base that we have. It is really has a very unique history, and So this was just absolutely ripe for criminal trafficking, and also taking advantage of the military, and taxpayers through government contracts. So uh, let's start with some of the breaking news today. There's so much. I'll go backwards. What just happened, why we are coming on so late tonight, is because El Mayo is a big cartel leader, probably a billionaire. I think he's a billionaire, if not lots of millions, lots of millions. Um, and of course, he made that. Uh, with the criminal trafficking, right? And if you have the drug cartel, you always have to have weapons, and those weapons always need ammunition. And then human trafficking became so um, lucrative. It's very lucrative, which is a big problem. And of course, you know, having the Asian ties that our family has, we've absolutely known about the organ trafficking. And with the CCP having such control over Mexico right now, the demand for organs, human organs, is huge. And of course, now the families of all of the members from this dumping ground that was lately exposed, um, their fear of the organ trafficking has made the news now. It's in the news, and I think China is even going to try to legalize it. It is really, really big. So it's not just the children, and it's not just the pornography. It's not just the weapons and all the equipment, and then the ammunition, and also the substance abuses. Right, all the substances. The big F one, that causes so much death. Now it's human organs. Um, so it is really, um, it's almost unbelievable. It's so demonic. It's so demonic. It's so satanic. And so, with President Trump being in office and knowing that the Walmart mass shooting case was absolutely used against him, built a narrative that was used against him to affect the midterms, to affect um, the election. Um, every which way, any way that they could um, stop his administration from being successful. And of course, the Walmart mass shooting was part of that. There was other shootings um, that were, wasn't just the Walmart shooting. So um, it, this was absolutely election interference. Okay, and the more and more information is coming out that shows that. And so when he came in now in 2025, he has learned in the last decade um, how this underbelly, this very evil, demonic underbelly, works. They call it the deep state. They call it the deep state, and I think he's really learned about the deep state and how the cartel are part of that, and how the CCP is part of that, um, and all of the shipping and the global network of this criminal trafficking, and then also the way they have organized themselves to fraudulently benefit from the taxpayers in the United States, to rip us off, absolutely rip us off through the VA benefits, through U.S. aid, through death benefits, through contracts, you name it, they're ripping us off. He was absolutely right the whole time, right? He was absolutely right. And so more and more of this is being exposed so that people can understand it. And this is what has happened today. El Mayo is this big cartel leader. He is absolutely connected to our son, Richard Halliday. He has an attorney named Ray Velarde. Ray Velarde, of course, is in El Paso. And this attorney was assigned to control his case. And why would they assign Ray Velarde to Richard? Because they knew Richard triggered all of this. Richard triggered all of this because he was President Trump's whistleblower. Not that he meant to be President Trump's whistleblower, but he was a whistleblower that exposed the criminal trafficking there that entered into Fort Bliss and into his own chain of command. And and because of that, he corroborated um, President Trump's policy, President Trump's border policy, and the crime that was going on and the ripping off of America by this criminal network. Richard's whistleblowing reports corroborated President Trump's policies that strengthened his policies that made him more appealing for the election. And they couldn't have that. And that's what triggered their attack on Richard. Okay, because first and foremost, they wanted to stop President Trump's advance, um, his his opportunity to become president again in 2020. Um, so that was really very, very important for us to learn, and all the evidence of 5 years of a day in and day out collecting evidence, uh, identifying the crimes, documenting it, putting it in timelines, charting it, just like in The Beautiful Mind, charting it on the wall. We have our walls full of it. Um, and seeing all the different connections through memes, through songs, and then receiving more and more tips, and documenting those tips, identifying the crimes, reporting the crimes, sending in the letters. It's been really just something day in and day out to do this. So, and all of that has led to election interference to control the politics. And if they had to destroy lives doing it, they did it. And if they had to brutally murder a U.S. Army soldier, whistleblower from Fort Bliss, a young one, um, they absolutely did it. And they tried, of course, to discredit, a lot of these soldiers. They would never become whistleblowers because they had a plan in their network. They would compromise the soldiers. That's why they would breach security, breach all the standard operating procedures, and that's why the barracks were such a mess, flush with weapons that were um, violating UCMJ or the SOPs. And then they would bring in the young girls, and the young girls would be too young, and they would videotape that, and so they could use that against any soldier that wanted to be a whistleblower. And of course, all the substance abuse, all the alcohol abuse, all the parties. These NCOs and leadership are absolutely guilty of failure of leadership, and worse, because they compromised our soldiers so that they wouldn't become whistleblowers. So, and they did it for their VA benefits, for maybe a piece of the cartel action, the criminal trafficking action, and whatnot, whatever. and the thing about Richard is that he couldn't be compromised. He didn't go for the substance abuse or the alcohol abuse. He didn't even go into the parties, and he didn't go for um, the vile and vulgar debauchery. He didn't go for it, okay? He didn't go for the Vanity Fair. He was honorable, right? He was an honorable, stellar soldier, distinguished honor graduate for his cycle in basic training and advanced individual training, the fastest runner in his unit, the guidon bearer, and he had a moral backbone. He had a moral foundation. He had a Christian foundation, and he was beautiful and strong and handsome, and wanted a bright future in law enforcement. Wanted to be a CID agent, and they couldn't corrupt him because he had a goal of what he wanted to be, and that meant that he had to be stellar. He had to be the best. He had to be aspiring, and he also had a keen eye, and document the crime that he saw around him and report it. And so he was really President Trump's whistleblower, and that triggered their hatred towards him, um, and the targeting that they had towards him. And why do I say hatred? Because they brutally took his life. They brutally took his life, and they targeted us. They had targeted us. And so, um, and one of the schemes that they had was to discredit him. And in that discrediting, that didn't work. It didn't work at all. Was this parking lot incident, and they assigned Ray Velarde. Ray Velarde, a billionaire's attorney, a top cartel leader, El Mayo's attorney, Ray Velarde, to Richard to control the case, to make it bad. And even with that, they couldn't make it bad, right? He came out sparkling clean. And, God is so good with that. And God is so good anyway, right? So El Mayo is absolutely connected to Richard's case, and he sent a message today. This is the breaking news, and I'm sorry, but that was the lead up. That was just the lead up. The breaking news is that he's putting up these signs, exposing the Maro Campos Calvan. She is the governor of Chihuahua, and the attorney general, Cesar Haragi, um, of being corrupt. Okay, and go to the Post, because it's many other, police and other officials and whatnot. I just got this. I just got this. So I translated it. Um, because it just came out um, in in um, in the news, and so I translated it, put it up there for everyone to see, and it really is shows that El Mayo is very upset that he was betrayed. He was extradited to the United States illegally. He is in New York, and of course with El Chapo's son. And that Scheinbaum is very upset about the plea deal with El Chapo's son, Guzman. And so, because they wanted to be there, right? They wanted to be part of the plea deal. They want inside knowledge. But the problem is that they're part of the Sinaloa cartel. And though that's an FTO now. If you don't know what an FTO is, look that up. That's an FTO. And so, you cannot aid and abet an FTO. Okay. And these cartels are, um, they're the enemy of the United States. And so you can't aid and abet an enemy. And so Scheinbaum has a real problem here. a real problem because she has lost access, right? And now El Mayo is coming out and exposing Mauro Campos Galvan for her, and her whole name is Maria Eugenia Campos Galvan. Okay, and that's important because it's on the sign. It doesn't say Chihuahuan governor, right? Just see Eugenia Campos Galvan on there, and that's very important because what has happened is this funeral home business, which is the double breaking news that there has been arrest now uh, in other funeral homes that are part of um, this terrible demonic um, rotting body. You know, you have 400 rotting bodies piled up on each other. Um, unidentified, and the families want help. And Amaro Campos, she's from the PAN party, so this is political, and one of the political Mexican political parties is called the PAN, PAN, like Peter Pan, PAN party. I would say maybe even like the demon Pan. Um, uh, because the Pan Party has ownership of this dumping ground. Well, someone that's associated with the Pan Party, a big person, has this ownership of this narco cartel dumping ground where, hundreds of rotting bodies were just piled on top of each other. And they, sacrilege of Corpus Christi. That's how I describe it, as sacrilege of Corpus Christi, which God doesn't take too kindly to. And if God's not on your side, you better watch out. He's no buttercup. He is no buttercup. Okay? You don't mess with God like this. And they have absolutely committed sacrilege um, against the human body. No respect at all, and fraudulently collecting on these through USAID, because if they are Jane Does or John Does and part of the migrant crisis that has been going on for years now, that USAID would pay for the removal of these remains. Um, and so, it's been one big funeral fraud. But that funeral fraud is connected to Purchase Funeral Homes, which is their lawyer is former uh, usurper DA Bill Hicks, right? Which connects it to El Paso. And of course, they're connected to Martin Funeral Homes and other funeral homes that are in El Paso. And so this is a very, very big deal, and it's absolutely, especially since we don't have our son's remains, and our son's remains, we're told that they were um, in Juarez. Um, this is very, very concerning, especially when they have just left these, didn't test for DNA, didn't identify these hundreds of remains. And some of these remains were 5 years old, okay? It's not like they were just days old. These were like, some of them were 5 years old. These were rotting bodies. And it's just sickening. The smell is what alerted people, so they say. But I think there's been other reasons, political reasons, that this has been exposed. And now another funeral home is caught with um, disrespecting uh, bodies. And there's been arrests made, a woman arrested. Her name's Nancy, and her son have been arrested in this. And Mauro Campos, the governor, and the attorney general, sorry, we're talking about 1:30 a.m. um, uh, yeah, and the governor of of, well, the Attorney General, sorry, of Chihuahua, have been accused by all these families, the families of, just about 400 rotting bodies, right? We have higher numbers than what they're saying, but I'll just be on the conservative side. They marched today because no one's doing anything to help them. They want the identity of these bodies. They want to know if their loved ones are there. So do we. So do we. And because there is a good chance that Richard, even partial uh, of his remains, are there. And so this is why this absolutely connects to our son's case. And that El Mayo is coming out so frustrated, um, causing a huge war between the cartels. This is what this signage is doing. It is declaring war. We know that they've been at each other, and now this tells you that the Trump administration, Marco Rubio's list has hit very, very hard. We wanted to come back to that, but things are just so crazy. But just keep that, know that there is a Marco's list. You can look it up on our Facebook page. We've already posted about that. We want to do a follow up. But this is all about what is happening politically behind the scenes to force this crime to be exposed. Okay, this crime would not be exposed without political movement, and of course, uh, our son's case is part of that. Is part of that political movement to expose these egregious crimes, these sacrilegious crimes, um, this humanitarian crisis, really humanitarian crisis there, and that go to such a huge fraud, grand theft larceny. I know you can say grand larceny, but I say grand theft larceny. It just sounds really gives that extra definition to what they've been doing. Um, so those are two big breaking news is there. The um, also breaking news, Ernest Christopher Grant. If you don't know who Ernest Christopher Grant is, he was the media sweetheart. He was a media sweetheart, and I would say the actor. I would say the crisis actor. I would say the cartel actor. I would say the El Paso cartel actor for the Walmart mass shooting. And he really needs to be investigated. Well, now I think he is being investigated. I think he is because he's been arrested. Again, again, he's a criminal. He is a total criminal. And when CNN went to his hospital room to interview him after the August 3rd, 2019 Walmart mass shooting that was used against the narrative was used against President Trump. He was the mouthpiece for this, one of the biggest mouthpieces for the disgusting narrative that would absolutely twist hearts against President Trump and President Trump's election, um, uh, his campaign's aspirations, right? Absolutely. Because what Ernest Christopher said on camera as a quote unquote victim and lying through his teeth, and CNN not, and of course they knew who he was, right? Of course they did. Of course they knew he was a criminal, and Chris Cuomo being part of this. I mean, this makes Chris Cuomo. He was absolutely part of this scheme against President Trump. And don't forget that Tulsi Gabbard just came out as Director of National Intelligence. director of national intelligence, to tell us that Obama was weaponizing the intelligence community to fabricate the Russia hoax, to fabricate, PP Gate, this all this stuff. They were fabricating it. They were absolutely, what are they trying? Wanting to be Hollywood and using taxpayers' money to do these fake investigations, millions and millions of dollars, Comey and the Mueller investigation and all of this. And the same thing was going on there in El Paso with Chris Cuomo and, of course, Beto O'Rourke and um, and many other actors, including Cruz, Senator Cruz, and and even Governor Abbott. Okay, so and of course, um, Veronica Escobar. It didn't matter if you were on the D side or the R side. It was all about were you um, for law, or were you for the cartel criminal trafficking crime network that had the CCP behind it? That's what this is all about. And, you know, they all went to El Paso after the August 3rd, 2019 mass shooting. And I've put up those videos. You really need to watch those videos going into the Walmart, the aftermath, right after it happened when Alexander Gerhard Hoffman's body was laying there. And we have the raw footage where we see the execution. But I fogged that over. No one wants to see a man with half his head, right? But he's laying there, and he's a German national. He's a German national. And for the Ernest Christopher Grant to, and just look at the aisles, right? You look at the aisles, there's not a sign of chaos anywhere. You just see a man executed. That's what you see. And you see an unsecured crime scene. That's what you see. And of course, I'm not saying that there was other things that weren't, this is a bloody mass shooting. Absolutely. But the whole narrative is a lie. The whole narrative that was put out by Ernest Christopher uh, Grant, with the blessings of Chris Cuomo and Ted Cruz and Beto O'Rourke and Veronica Escobar, and it goes on, and Governor Abbott and his group. The politics is so dirty, and they bless this terrible narrative that was absolutely not true. And we know about Patsy. We know about who he is, and we know the Mayella's part in all of this, in the Walmart cybersecurity, in the FBI, in the DA's office. I mean, this was a very expensive um, false flag. Well, I don't want to call it a false flag because it really was a criminal. It was a real crime. The crime, the the falseness of it was the narrative, right? And all of the millions of dollars to uh, produce this, to the production of it, it is so criminal because of the case and the federal case and the state case and all of these. Um, it's just a fabricated narrative. That's what they were doing for this crime. And Ernest Christopher Grant has been on May 7th. May 7th, he was arrested. He's being extradited to Texas. And, this is really, really very, very good news because he is absolutely a major criminal in all of this. And what this shows to the people that have followed this case and the Walmart mass shooting case, which is totally intertwined with Richard's case, is that we've been right all along. It is intertwined, and it is intertwined with all of the criminal trafficking. And Richard was targeted in 2019. That shows you that his reporting started in 2019. And that, they really absolutely knew who he was, and and that they have been very derelict, and well, it implicates them in the crimes, right? The cover up and everything. So that is second double breaking news, and or well, no, got El Mayo, you got Mario Campos, you got the march on the AG's office by all the families, more than 1,000 um, family members. You have this on Ernest Christopher Grant, and there's more, right? There's so much more because of what's happening with Cruz and the timeline for everything, the El Paso Strong narrative, all of the timeline, the El Paso police narrative that's so wrong, the um, uh, the CBP guardian angel or whatever narrative that is so wrong. Uh, when you put all of it together, you clearly see that this is exactly what Tulsi Gabbard is saying that Obama did, is using taxpayers' money, weaponizing our system, wrongly using it for political reasons against your political enemy, political, I shouldn't say enemy, opposition, right? Political opposition. And they absolutely use this against President Trump. So it's not just the Russia. It's not just the Mueller investigation. It was also the Walmart mass shooting case. And it was also Richard Halliday's case. They could not reveal what Richard Halliday was reporting on, because that would corroborate President Trump. It would benefit President Trump and his administration, his campaign for his second term as President of the United States. So this is, and it would also reveal the criminal network that is in Chihuahua, Mexico, that El Mayo now just exposed, that Mayo just exposed all over Juarez, Mexico. And thank you, God. Even a criminal could can do something good. And this is what El Mayo just did. He just exposed this pan party. The Mauro Campos, the governor of Chihuahua, Mexico, is from the Pan Party in Mexico. And so, of course, all of this is connected to the Pan Party, and he just exposed it. So, thank you so much, everyone. God bless you. I know it's super early. It's almost 2 o'clock in the morning. And maybe tomorrow I'll be able to come on during the day. I don't know. It's Sunday. It's Sunday, and I want to go and I want to praise God. Praise God for all his blessings, for the arrest of Ernest Christopher Grant, for the arrest of these funeral home owners that um, commit a sacrilege against Corpus Christi, and the all these family members. I want to praise God for these family members that absolutely. We're almost at 5 years with Richard. What This is wonderful news, that these family members are now justice, demanding justice. So, yeah, we have so much to be grateful for. And, yesterday I was with my grandchildren, and a praying mantis came to us. It was a huge, huge praying mantis, huge one. And I told my grands, I said, see, something really good is going to happen now. This is when the praying mantis comes to you, something good is going to happen to you, to us. And my grandson said, oh, yeah, like the bad people that hurt Richard, Uncle Richard, will be thrown into the alligator pit. And I was like, yep, that would be something very good. And I posted that yesterday. And look at today, all of this um, breaking news. And let's hope that these very, very evil people, very evil, criminal, totally criminal people that commit the worst type of crimes will be held accountable. So thank you so much. God bless you. And I will